November 13th, 2024 meeting of the Poolesville Planning Commission. All commissioners are present and accounted for this evening. On the agenda, we have citizens' comments on agenda items. Do we have anybody waiting? And
You have, we put your
we've got a
item
spot
on the agenda.
Sorry. Oh, it's good. We're anxious to have you too. Announcements. Before I ask for announcements, I want to make an announcement.
Sure.
But I did this last month, but Martin wasn't here to hear it. But we know this is Bart's last meeting as he's not running for commissioner, and so he won't be part of the commissioners and won't be liaison to the planning commission. I know everybody here has enjoyed working with you. I've had the pleasure of working with you for 8 years, which has been really fun. I don't know that we've really ever butted heads, but we may not have always seen eye to eye, but it's always been a very fruitful relationship. And
We have a couple hours. We could.
we can say
Butt some heads.
but I've definitely enjoyed it. But I've learned a lot from you. I think we've had some different approaches on things, but I hope that's been mutually beneficial.
Yeah, no, likewise. Likewise. Yeah.
Certainly have enjoyed it. So thank you very much for your 8 years of both serving the Planning Commission and the commissioners in diligent fashion. Have the utmost respect for what you've done and wish you well in your retirement from public service, if you should so choose to retire.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It's been great working with all of you. And, before I became a commissioner, I saw some iterations of the Planning Commission, and, they were good. But, I feel like this board, and even when Amanda was here, and Kevin, you've been a great replacement, in my opinion. But, this is a really solid board. I mean, Chuck and Lexi, and, you do a great job heading it up, and thanks to Wade and Niles. I have I have a whole spiel I'm going to read at my last commissioner meeting, but so I'll save some of that for then. But it's been a pleasure, and thank you for the kind words.
Thank you.
I think I need a tissue.
It's been a pleasure to serve with you. Thank
And
you.
if anybody wants to go to Cugini's afterwards and get a beer,
Sure thing.
someone else is buying. No problem.
Awesome. Any announcements from town staff?
So one thing to mention, because this had come up in front of this body, the Montgomery County Council approved a change to their regulations regarding the impact fees. So for next door and others, they've made it so that you get a reduced impact fee if you have under 2,200 square feet with a built-in garage, or under 1,800 square feet with a detached garage.
Bravo, Montgomery County.
Good news.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so, yeah, but that was, Jim Clifford let us know yesterday, so
Interesting
wanted
that
to pass that.
those houses are 1,800 to 2,200 square feet.
Yeah.
2250 actually. So I bet that'll be 22.
Yeah. So that, but outside of that, I don't think we have any other updates unless you do, Wade.
Nope.
All right.
Anything from you, from the commissioners?
I don't have anything. Feels like I haven't been in a commissioner meeting in months, but it hasn't been that long. But, we skipped one because of the election, and we meet again Monday. So, well, you know that.
Yeah, I'll be there.
You'll be there. Congratulations to you, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, excellent.
Thank you very much.
You'll do a great job.
All right, on to the approval of minutes. We had one edit, that was to change the, on 4-3, change the motion to approve as to Mr. Stump,
Yep,
and Mr. Maroney seconded.
yep. I've already noted that, and so I'll make that change.
Any other changes, additions, or edits?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the 10/16/2024 meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain. I wasn't here at the last meeting.
Abstain.
Thank you. On to new business, and I'm excited to have Ariana Ross join us this evening. Did you want to kick us off with anything, Niles?
I think mainly what I said, as I said in my memo, is that, Ariana has come forward to us with this project, and I'll let her sort of explain what she's thinking of it, and then I did share what she had shared with me, including the link to the state grant, so you have that background as well.
Hi, I'm Ariana Ross. For those of you that don't know me, I'm the CEO of Story Tapestries. We're an arts service organization, so we partner with organizations and communities all across the county, but I am located in Poolesville and have been for a couple of years. But COVID, you know. And then, but what I wanted to is, I came across, so our organization partners and receives quite a lot of Maryland State Arts Council funding. And the Maryland State Arts Council has a public arts grant. So I brought this up to be honest with, I think it was you and Ed, and they were like, go talk to Niles and present it to the Planning Commission. So I didn't plan anything in particular for you all, simply just that it's a 2-year public art grant. And what's important is each year you do have to apply. The grant is due in January. A not-for-profit or an artist would apply for it. It might be something that Story Tapestries could apply in partnership with Poolesville, or it might be something that I reach out to Riverworks and together. You know, it's not necessarily that type of thing. What's great about the public art grant, it's a really unique grant, and I don't know if anyone has their phone with them, but this chart is really, really valuable on that link. And basically, if you've never gotten a public art grant before, which I don't think Poolesville ever has.
I don't believe so either.
Okay, I don't think so. So if you've never gotten it, the year one, you get sort of $10,000 to do planning. So what we usually do with the planning of a public art project is we do a series of sort of community design workshops. So the community gets to come in, they get to actually have input, and it's a community process. We work with muralists who really understand with how to work with the community. There's a particular muralist that we like to work with who's bilingual, but if there's someone in Poolesville who would be interested in doing it, I'm not like biased for one way or the other. But what's neat is you spend sort of the first, like from when you find out, and I recommend that the way that I've been told to do it is you do it in a slightly truncated planning year, so that you submit the grant in January, you know by about May whether you get it, and you sort of spend from July through about October planning and working with the community. Then you submit your final report so that you can submit the next January for the implementation grant. As long as you get your final report in before the implementation grant is due, or sometimes the Maryland State Arts Council has a little bit of wiggle room before the committee meets, then you're able to apply and get the sort of, I forget what they call it. They call it the project grant part. So it allows time for the community to put input, for the planning commission to think about where, you know, the community would want it, for the commissioners to think about where it would go, and sort of how it would look like. And it could be a mural, or it could be a public piece of art, like a statue, or and if anyone has ever been where there was, I think it's in Annapolis has it too, where there's the donkeys and the this and the elephants and there's all sorts of fun pieces of artwork that were created by the community that sort of represent the community. And is the only grant out there where there are 2 steps to the process. If for some reason the Maryland State Arts Council doesn't fund it, there are ways in which there are other businesses and individuals and community members who believe in matching these kinds of things. So it's not a one and done. I personally do not believe in submitting a grant and being like, oh, you're going to 100% get it, because 9 times out of 10, you do not. You might, instead of 10,000, you get 7,000. So then you have to think about how do you match? Who could match it? And I think there's enough individuals and businesses and communities around here that would be interested in that kind of work. Story Tapestries has a relationship, a smaller relationship with Riverworks, not because just of time and honestly the world has been complicated, but we also have a relationship with Poolesville seniors, and so we've done a series of workshops with them, and I know they would be passionately interested in visual art. Last year we did not get it, but we were told to resubmit this year a Department of Aging grant that would support. It's called the Village, but it's like the Village of Poolesville, if that makes any sense. It's a village grant. So it's a grant to support like the Poolesville seniors. So again, this might be something that could match that. And that's from a different department. So if the Arts Council can give Story Tapestries a grant and the Department of Aging can give a grant, they match each other. It's not it's not a conflicting dollars or a conflict of interest dollars, if that makes any sense. I don't always get those words right. That is not my strength. So any questions? It's really in the beginning stages of a thought process. I was not expecting to like, come next week. But it is the beginning stages, and it would be due, the grant, in January, so it would be more, and I don't know how this works, because I've never worked with a planning commission before, whether or not it would be sort of permission to, have the conversation with Riverworks or other groups to see if we want to submit a planning grant. And so I don't really know what the process of that works.
Yeah, so I think, Wade and I were talking about this. Maybe this is something where we can discuss further what you need from the town's perspective, if you want the commissioners, to come back and have the commissioners take a look at how you want to engage with it. Just from off the top of my head, that would be the way to proceed. But Wade, do you have any thoughts?
No, you're exactly right. This is not really a planning commission function or a commissioner function at this point. I think if you want to partner with it, staff can sit down with you and go through it. I think the initial $10,000 award, which is 100% or nothing, is due December 19th, I think I read on this initial application.
Yeah, so they
So-
changed the things. Some of them in the past have been due December 19th. Others, they make it due January. So you have to just check. So I will,
Oh, yeah, it says right here, I'm reading it,
Yeah.
yeah.
so yeah.
But that doesn't really matter. I think we just need to kind of pull the pieces in together. Is there an artist that we want to work with? Is there a property owner we want to work with? What do we want to do? A mural and stuff. We need to make sure that the zoning is compliant with whatever we're thinking about also. So we just need to kind of hash out these little details.
Absolutely. And honestly, if you don't submit this year, it's not that you couldn't submit in the future years. Like, it's not a grant that it goes away.
So, yeah, if you want to connect, with me, that's easiest enough, and then we can sort of sit down and talk a little bit more about those details, and we can go from there.
Absolutely. And I'd say if you ask what we would need from the town is probably a letter of support, that the town would be interested in this kind of thing happening in Poolesville. Like, that's really more what the town. Initially, and once the grant is, there's enough community organizations that honestly creating community, like Michelle just saw it online and was like, ooh, I want to know, you know what I mean? There's enough community members who believe in the power of the arts that honestly having community workshops is not that complex. Like, making it happen is the kind of the easy part. For Story Tapestries and for what we do, that's literally what we do on a weekly, daily basis. The part that I would want to make sure to do is to engage the communities that are not always engaged in Poolesville. So the Latino communities that sometimes are not always engaged in coming to things. Ensuring that we engage everybody in all pieces and spaces.
A couple of thoughts that came to my mind when we were talking that I don't think I shared were, I did mention that we're discussing the inception of a cultural arts district. Of course, Riverworks in that area is all, and this timing is really, I think, pretty cool. Like, if we could have a community art project to kind of kick off the inception of this would be really nice. But not the end of the world if it doesn't happen this year either, right? I mean, I agree on both sides. But also, we've got we're right next, that Cultural Arts District is right next to the high school, which has a tremendous humanities program.
Right.
And a lot of art support could come from that program as well. Now, I'd love to see that that relationship start to build with our future to be hopefully Cultural Arts District and the humanities program. So, and of course you mentioned that Riverworks and their great stuff. So I'd support any venture in that direction.
So, awesome. I will reach out and we'll see what happens.
All right.
Thank you all.
Thanks for being here. I love the idea.
Excellent. Thank you.
I wanted to just bring up a couple of things that were concerning to me, not because of anything that you presented, but things to think about. And that is, if the town is going to help, I think it would be really interesting to know, is this going to go on public space or private space? And if it's going to go on private space, what are the permitting requirements? Just, not that we need to hash this out now, but definitely things to think about, and that maybe that this should be taken up then, if it's going to go on public space, maybe that's a parks and streets issue as opposed to a zoning issue.
And that's the best part about it being a planning grant, is you don't have to have those decisions at the time. You can literally say, we want this located in Poolesville, we want to do X, Y, and Z, and that we'll be working with Poolesville. I recommend putting it on public space versus private space. I like it, but I think it's a conversation that has to be had in order for it to, which is why they give you the time to have the plan. It used to be that they did not. You had to actually have the plan and submit the grant to execute it all at the same time. And for public art projects, it's very difficult to do.
My only thought was that if there's a need for a letter of support from the town, then what sort of guardrails are put on that letter? And that's my only comment or thoughts. I wish you all the luck. I think it's a great project, and yeah, I can't wait to see it.
Awesome.
And I think that's part of what staff can help, figure out, is what they plan to do and how we can help support that.
Might look really good on a new, might look really good on a new, where am I just blanked? Civic Center.
Community center.
Thank you. Say it again.
Community center.
Community. I lost that word. Yeah.
Trust me, I understand.
Community center would be a nice possible place for that.
Absolutely. I was thinking the same.
Timing could work out,
Yeah.
Yeah.
permitting of that, assuming it's not ridiculous. Timing could be good.
When
And
is
we
the
got like
community center gonna?
talk about pocket parks in the streetscape. There's going to be like a small space down at the new townhomes. I mean, like there's plenty of public spaces that, I mean, I won't say plenty, but there are public spaces that, in my mind, would probably work for this. Yeah, and I imagine, I can't speak for the commissioners, but I imagine that this is something they would support and give you a letter.
Yeah.
So,
Can today.
So just to answer your question about the community center, right now the planning is for the real design of the community center to begin in FY '28 and then construction in the subsequent years. So 29, 30, yeah. But yeah,
So far away, but it's not.
yeah. But as we were saying, there's things, the pergola down where the townhouses are going to be, something, that will happen sooner. So there are other things to look at as well, but we can,
possible to even put something on Wayland Commons, like on the, where the trees are and stuff on the outskirts, maybe?
so we can look at, but we can have those discussions and see where we want to go, but.
Awesome. Thank you all very much.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
I have a question. Do I need to stay for the whole meeting, or can I go home to put a kid to bed?
You have to stay.
No, you must stay.
My youngest child was like, "Where are you going?"
The doors are locked.
That's okay, I had the same reaction after leaving for dinner, so,
They probably know exactly what it is.
yes.
Okay. That's it for new business. Going on to old business with a follow-up discussion on the Cultural Arts District.
All right, so basically, we have a couple of different things to discuss. One is Wade and I went through from all of the feedback you guys gave us over the previous meetings, and kind of went through the definitions, the use chart, and the sign design guidelines that to try to take and incorporate all of your feedback into it. And so that we make sure that we are capturing everything that you had discussed and making it consistent with the overall vision for the Cultural Arts District. So those were sort of the three items that we looked at. Our goal tonight is kind of to make sure that this all fits. If you have any questions, any concerns, we can work through that. I don't know, did you want to follow up on that, Wade?
No, the other thing is, we're trying to get pieces of this kind of put together. We redlined, the newer stuff that's going to be in to change things. We have to put it into an ordinance change format to be able to take it forward to the commissioners when it's being adopted to public hearings and things. So if we get many pieces that we can get together, have them on the shelf, basically, and saying, we like it, we like it, we like it. We may go back and changes in the future as we get through other processes. But the more pieces we get done, the better we're going to start to visualize what we're going to create here.
So with that in mind, I figured, the biggest chunk of it, or the biggest, a new material is the definition. So I figured we'd start there and see if everybody had thoughts or comments or changes.
I have a few thoughts. Keep in mind, this is just kind of me thinking out loud. And first off, these definitions are not, are these just for the town Like in general, not just the arts district?
Correct. So for all of this, this is the definitions that we use. Essentially, it ties to the use chart.
Yeah, okay.
So, and a few other specific things, like there's definitions in here related to signs, that relates to how the sign code operates. So it's things like that. So these definitions wouldn't just apply to the arts district, but that's where the use
Yeah.
chart would come in to show how that applies.
So my thinking out loud notes, and a lot of these are probably just going to be dismissed because they're just, I don't know, arbitrary, but the number 12, the artist studio one, there's a lot of like criteria for what that can be, and it seems like that'd be something that would be really hard to enforce. But whatever, it's fine. The cannabis one, I noticed that there's the word synthetic in there. And I think the way that these things are working is that, like, the synthetic stuff, from what I understand, is like a result of like the federal government legalizing hemp, and then for like, you know, for non-drug use, but they found a way, of course, people found a way to like make the hemp extract like into THC and make it so that it's like a drug. So I think most of the dispensaries just carry like the regular stuff, not the synthetic stuff. So I don't know if that should be changed.
So this definition for that one, Martin, came directly from the ordinance that was adopted by the commissioners last year,
Okay, that was stupid.
word for word. So that's,
Okay, and then 61. I guess this is something we can't change, but it looks to me like that reads that you could have like a shooting range. Is that right?
Indoor?
An indoor shooting range.
You definitely
Yes.
can.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
something that could probably that might upset people if it's loud. But I guess shooting ranges can be quiet too.
Yeah.
Well, no,
The
yeah.
noise regulation part would, having a range and the noise associated with it are kind of two different topics.
Right.
If you're
Okay.
going to have a range, you've got to deal with the noise mitigation per county law
Yeah.
code.
Let's see. 123. This is just maybe a typo. Number 123, a building or portion thereof designed for showing motion pictures or for dramatic dance.
That's the legal term.
Okay.
This came directly out of a zoning legal
Okay, and then,
dictionary.
and then on 126, expiration of the peppermint period, is that legal also?
What is that, Niles?
Is that legal, legal speech?
That's funny.
How did that even happen?
I do not know. Martin did it. I don't know.
It's probably me.
Your daughter was
Probably supposed to be
involved, I'm not sure.
Yes, it's supposed to be permitted. But,
I know what it's supposed to be.
Or autocorrect.
well, I went through it with that in mind, but because it's correctly spelled,
Correctly spelled
it will
word,
not show.
No.
But I will fix that.
And the last comment I have is on the vape shop one, like, you know, 51% of its floor area, that seems like a hard thing to quantify or measure or whatever, like what does, 51% constitute, but
I know, and this came from Montgomery County at that time. We used different websites and legal dictionaries to get these in place.
Yeah, that's cool.
Would it be fair to say that Martin's term on the planning commission ended the peppermint period?
I did now.
It's enforced by Santa Claus.
All right, that's all I got on that, you guys. Thanks for hearing me out.
So do you guys want to talk about some of these in particular? Because we added some, and hopefully we didn't miss anything. We're trying to be all encompassing with what could happen in a CAD, what we just didn't have in general. And some of it's just from experience over the years of finding holes in the definitions.
I think Martin made a good point on the artist studio, that it's a lot of things that it could include but not limited to. There's only a couple of exclusions, just not tattooing or body piercing. I mean, it may be difficult to enforce. I don't know what else we could do with it though, right? I mean,
This is not really for an enforcement, this is more from a permission standpoint.
Yeah. And this was something where we'd looked at we had a series of definitions of options of the definitions, and the idea of this was that it was the most inclusive
Right.
of the types of artist studios that you could have.
Okay.
The idea was to try to make it capture, because we had discussions about metalworking and things like that. So this was trying to capture all of the different types of art that we would want. That was the way that,
Including the ones we're not thinking of, right?
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Fair enough.
Anyone want to go next? We're going to go through these in alphabetical order. How we want to do this?
Anything you want to talk about?
Okay. Fortunately, I have my notes in two different places now. I didn't, messed up not realizing there was red. All right. So, on number 38, which is not highlighted, I would caution against any language that uses ambiguatory terms like large. What is large? I think that department store should be defined beyond large, and if we're going to define department store, then we should add a second definition.
Yeah, it's 38 is twice. I just noticed that.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're
The
fine.
second 38.
Yeah, I will
Please see
read.
38, 39, 38.
Yeah,
Oh, there we go.
yep, I will redo the numbering, but yeah,
That happens again in the 100s also.
yeah.
Yeah. I would encourage maybe a secondary definition, since department stores will be large and there is no like retail store, but like a general store that would be listed as under the department square footage.
So we did add a retail
I
trades
saw that.
one, so, but
Don't
we,
know if that would encompass, though, the size difference or variation between the two. Thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the initial intent was. This was so long ago.
I have not looked this over to see if there's other language that uses ambiguous terms like that, but I will continue.
Is this going to be reviewed by our lawyer?
yeah,
Yes.
If he doesn't catch it, then it's probably not an issue, right? I mean, if it's okay with him, it's okay with me.
My issue is that, like, it's very subjective, right? So if someone comes in and they're like, hey, I'm going to build a 10,000 square foot store, someone might say, oh, that's large. But, you know, is it? Maybe not.
But do they have various departments, each dealing in a separate type of good?
I mean, I've seen general stores that had like,
Different aisles?
you know, they had like pharmacy and they had like your little soda shop and they were all in like 5,000 square feet. I don't know. I don't know what large means. Just a thought.
Here's how relevant department store actually is in this document, in this town.
Right.
I have seen
If we can't get a
several
grocery store-
in little towns in Virginia, which is why I thought of it, because I was out and about last
But
week.
no, I mean, most, where do we actually even use it, and does it matter?
Right.
Right.
Bill, it's like,
Sure.
is it an extraneous definition that we don't,
It might
type
not-
that we don't even
Like,
need?
would we have thought of it if it wasn't included in here?
Well, there's a lot of stuff, yeah, there's a lot of stuff in here that's kind of copy-paste from, over the years from
right. I mean,
other various.
this is, yeah, decades of
This is, yeah.
definitions.
Then, I still don't think on 45 we need the word eating. I think that's ridiculous.
That was a truck.
Yeah,
It was?
Chuck said that.
We actually use, that's actually also the wording used in two other places.
page 14.
The boarding house has that as well.
Yeah, well, we added that because, so that the two lined up, so the dwelling unit,
For it to be consistent.
yeah.
I would disagree on 61, that it specifically says sale of target shooting and hunting accessories. I would take that to mean as sale of goods and not as location to practice. So if you wanted to include a shooting range, it would need to be spelled out there, because I would not have read that as a location where you could actually fire a gun.
Ooh, looking
Shooting
at
range
it.
is in here
It
somewhere,
specifically-
used to be.
Oh, is shooting range in here?
It used to be covered.
Yeah, they're separate.
Yeah.
Okay, they're separate, okay.
There's,
Should be in the S's.
yeah, sign.
thing.
I don't think it drives me crazy. They're not all, one's a store, one's shooting. They should be.
Definitely
same
do
place.
not see shooting range listed.
It definitely used to be here because I remember a long conversation about it at one point.
You know, it was in, I think it's in the use chart. And as.
Well, there might not be a definition for it.
Yeah, because
Sure.
we ran into this a couple of different places where
There's kind of one-to-one.
it's
There's a range,
archery range is archery range. And then I think there was,
Ballistics, right? No.
But I think I think it's right, just, let me see the use chart.
yeah, I'm looking through it right. Rifle or pistol range indoor, rifle or pistol range outdoor.
Okay.
Yeah,
So that's where it was. Which would imply, I guess, that you can't do pistols then.
You could have both.
Yeah, I'm just saying from since it's not, if it's not defined, how would you?
there's several things that aren't defined also.
Yes.
I shouldn't say that, just because they're simply, it's
Sure.
pretty easy to know what it is.
Yeah, oh, totally. As making a joke.
And the only other definition that I didn't see in here that I thought might be relevant is storage facility.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
In a while, we have had a request for one of those.
Yes.
Is that in the use chart?
That's what I believe it is.
I think it is.
It is in the use chart, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me think where that would be.
Not to be confused with a warehouse,
Right.
Correct.
which also is not listed, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I really like good work on the definitions, adjustments, and additions, subtractions. They look really good.
I'm just looking. Commercial. I'm not seeing the storage one right now, but I believe it was in there. I just can't see it right now.
It's not.
It's in the use chart, yes.
I
Yeah.
just searched through the use chart. The only use of the word storage is in things like warehousing, ag, and various ag use types. for
Okay.
Machinery, so there isn't one specifically for storage facility, unless you want to kind of lump under warehousing, which I.
Right, and we have, yeah, wholesale as well, we have in several places as well, so we can look at that too, so.
Thank you.
all right.
And Niles, I gave you my two, but just for the benefit of everybody else, there was the cable communications systems, number 26, which is very lengthy and antiquated, and I thought we might get a refresh on that.
Yeah,
I presume that's to cover like Verizon-type building?
Correct.
Right? And then 92 was to put his or her for authorized agent for the president of the commissioners.
Could just be there.
Yeah.
oh, yeah, yeah, there.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, that was straightforward, though.
And where I was kind of thinking on the antiquated cable communication system was the idea of the data farms and, there's, things are changing so quickly. Just make sure we've got that kind of thing covered.
And that might be a whole different animal, actually, that's not covered.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Right.
I think adding
Because
data,
it'll be non-cable. I mean,
right. So I'll make a note next to that communication one, to include data centers, and then we can look at that definition.
I mean, it's my understanding that data centers and all those kind of things use a ton of water, so I don't know if you want to like put something in there about, not allowing them or whatever, because like we don't,
have to have their own source.
Yeah,
yeah.
and that could be part of the definition, as well, maybe, but. Right.
I don't think you're gonna have a problem if there's power issue anyway.
All right, exactly.
And the land in town is expensive versus putting it somewhere.
Well, yeah, you can't have a data center in town anyways.
So I know we had this conversation last time, I forget what the answer was. So we've got apartment house defined in here now.
Yeah.
Where do we decide a duplex would fall? We talked about it, and I forget what the answer was.
Right. I think what we were discussing is wasn't that part of a multifamily discussion?
Well, we talked about Chuck saying something about the duplexes, but we never did address it. We said we wait and see if we bring it up again.
Yes, that's what it was. Yep. So, that's right. So the thought that I had was potentially as part of a definition for multifamily. I think that's what I brought up when we were talking, Wade, but I can't remember.
And maybe it's kind of a fine line. We did see it identified in like Montgomery County in different ways and how it was used. We can definitely take a look at it.
And and duplexes are called out in the design standards for the village overlay. So it's referenced there. So we can look at how we did that as well.
I guess the question would be, where would you want that allowed, not allowed, special exception?
Yeah.
We don't have anything that falls in that duplexy category today. I can think of, we got some boarding house / apartments, but
Yep. We have apartments that are above commercial. So like Kaleva, the Oddfellows, stuff like that.
yeah, again, I don't necessarily know we need it. I remember the discussion. I was just reading through the definition. I didn't see anything that covered it. And actually, the way I'm envisioning anything new in the downtown area, duplex would fall into like the whole single family. It's still smaller than I would personally like to see. I don't think anyone would even want to do a duplex down there, hopefully, but yeah, probably doesn't matter.
Okay.
Right.
So what does it matter? It doesn't matter to call it out specifically?
Yeah, I don't think there's a need for it. Something made me think about, well, I don't know why, because I see a lot of them in some of the little towns I'm in, but they're definitely the older,
Yep.
post World War II.
That was Miles and I's conversation right there. Exactly.
Yep. My neighborhood in Grand Forks, where I grew up, had duplexes down the road. They were all built in the turn of the 20th century, so.
Doesn't duplex actually just fall under the definition of townhouse?
I was wondering that.
I think it
It could, yes.
could, yeah.
I mean, I think reading that definition, it would just be under that
Yeah.
has at least two distinct entrances attached to divide, yeah. I think it's covered under townhouse.
So you guys mentioned multifamily a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
Do we need such a thing, and if so, what is its purpose?
So the only thing that, the reason why I was bringing it up is just because we refer to it in terms of the zoning map, and that was my first thought, because the way that zoning category is done is multifamily.
Multifamily.
And so that was my connection to it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to have a definition for it in relationship to the use chart. That's just how we refer to it in terms of.
I was just trying, just from a use chart standpoint, I think we got single family
Yeah.
detached. Townhouse, which covers duplex if it ever comes up. We now have apartments, which we never had before, which that was the big, kind of the missing piece.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out what, outside of those I just listed, what does multifamily mean?
Right.
I don't think I'm struggling to come up with a use for it.
Right, and I don't think it would separately. It was just
I just want to make sure.
It was just in terms of the map. That's what I was thinking of.
Okay.
So.
It's one of those words we've tossed around for years. That
Yes. Yeah.
I think it meant different things to different people.
Before we move off definitions, can we take a look at number 83?
I've got that
Cool.
one. I was gonna wait till we got the signs.
We threw it in here on purpose to try to get attention to it,
Yep.
I like that. It works for me.
Yeah.
because I don't think this is the definition we want.
You don't?
What don't you like?
That it is strictly prohibited by this code, because listening to what we talked about initially, maybe murals on some of the walls in the CAD district and different things, maybe permitted, so it's worth a discussion at least.
I like it. That's what I'm glad you brought it up, Wade. I was gonna wait when we got the signs, because it says that that's prohibited, right? It's a sign if it includes a business name, right? But it is not a sign if it's on the side of a business, right? It could be a mural of the stage, of people acting on the stage on the side of Riverworks, right? That could be the mural. But if it doesn't say Riverworks in the mural, it's not a sign.
Absolutely.
Right. This definition
I
says.
might be okay with that, actually, you know?
Well, we've seen the drawings that have been submitted by Riverworks in the past, and it does show Riverworks written on the side of the building, also what they're going to be proposing.
That
So
would
just
be,
throwing it out there,
that would be a sign.
it'd be a sign at that point.
But I like that, I want to encourage the artistry in the signage in the cultural arts district. But I do worry, like, on the side of Bassett's, just seeing Bassett's and almost, not that they would do this, but like graffiti style Bassett's on the side of Bassett's as you're driving through town. I don't think I would like that. So it's almost like it should be a special exception where we can say we like it or we don't like it.
Well, yeah, because I mean,
I know I did the same thing when before I
Yeah, my
said
J hat goes on and going,
Yep.
art is very relative. I mean, like, and somebody could want to paint something offensive, you know, like that they consider art and other people consider art, but the town in general may not like. So it seems like some kind of an approval process would be a good thing.
And it's going to be subjective. I don't know how you can get around it.
yeah.
You get in freedom of speech.
Yep.
I like the fact that this definition excludes or precludes them from using basically any logo or language. That cuts down on a lot of the problems right there. Now, when you're going to have an approval process, that's a whole additional
Right.
topic.
I'm on the other side of this, but only a little bit. I agree. I don't want some big, company name here. But I do think that it's important that if you're going to encourage murals and a business is going to pay to have it put up, that they should be able to have some ownership in, the form of a logo stamp at the bottom or in the form of a signature at the bottom. And so while I get what you're saying, that you don't want it to be a advertisement, I do think that there should be some ability for them to have minimal recognition on that.
You can carve that out, it'll be fine.
I mean, and it could be tied to like, if it's 100 square foot,
I think you tie it to our sign regulations. It's got to be the same size of a sign.
Yeah,
Well-
that does, I was gonna say, the sign regulation does provide the ability to put numbers and names in there, but they're specified size.
okay. Yeah, I didn't realize that you could layer them that way.
I don't know, I'm just
We
looking,
could try to do that in the design guidelines for the CAD if that's the direction you want to go.
Yeah.
I mean, I would like for, murals are expensive, and if you're gonna spend thousands of dollars to put a, art mural on the side of your wall, I think that you should be allowed to have, your 12-inch by 12-inch postage stamp of your name on the corner of it. Or, across the back of someone's shirt or whatever. Like, I don't know, but I think that there should be some sort of mechanism in here to allow for minimal
I wouldn't do
ownership.
that. I'd like to see that in some design guidelines, like either,
Well, what my first thought is in this is I sort of, in the design guidelines that I sent to you guys, I included types of signs and then some specific definitions of, or not specific definitions, but specific parameters around different signs. So we could just include in there one that's murals and then have some, see if we want specific guidance in the same vein, jumping a little bit ahead. But what I tried to do with the cultural arts design, sign design guidelines, is both encourage what we want, but while still leaving flexibility. That was the intent behind what I was trying to do. So again, looking at the murals, there might be a way of crafting language that does the same thing.
what's Rapid Cities?
Yeah, send that to me.
Send the ordinance that they have.
Sounds good.
Just a question on the mural definition. Just to make sure that my reading of the intent is what you intended, is where it says a mural, the second sentence, a mural is considered a sign if it contains any language or logo which advertises any product or service, or if it identifies any business other than for historic means.
So that was related to the idea that you could have, you could have, like I mentioned last time, historical artifice, like there are some places that preserve old
Yeah.
business
Yeah.
signs from the 1900s or whatever.
Okay.
So this is
So the
language. similar
the
to-
Bassett's is a prime example. They have a picture of White's Ferry, but they couldn't write White's Ferry on the top of the area above the ferry.
Right.
Gotcha.
But if it had been that year, 100 years ago, then you could preserve it in that context.
Yeah,
So that was the distinction they were trying to make.
okay. Or if somebody wanted to put up a old, Coca-Cola sign or a male's pouch tobacco sign that would probably fit this definition to make the place look older than it really is.
Right. I think that could potentially, I think more of the intent is it to be have some historical connection. So it
Tied
would
to
be
the
connected
area.
to the area or the property or something like that.
not just older.
That would be the way that I would read this language. This was from a town in California, so
Yeah.
that's where this
Yeah.
definition came from.
Yeah, I like
Just
what it
using
intends to do, yeah,
do that.
yeah.
What is historic?
What?
What is historic?
So it depends on who you're asking.
I bring
But-
this up intentionally because my
Right.
daughter's doing Throwback Thursday tomorrow, and their throwback is the 2000s.
Right.
So I'm going to have a moment,
Gosh, I thought you wanted to know about me.
early 2000s. So what is historic?
So it depends on how you value it. Most, like, I believe it is the guidelines for national historic districts is it has to be at least 50 years old. So like when you're doing architectural, like when you have a neighborhood and this is the historic district, that is the definition that they use. But you could argue that it should be 75 years or 100 years, depending on what you're trying to preserve.
You're hurting my feelings. 50 years.
And in the signage section, it talks about a hanging sign. It would hang on the side of the building, right? That's what a hanging sign is?
Yeah, or hanging off a post. So a good example are like the one at Locals or Caleva's one. I use both pictures of both as reference points, but you have one hanging off the building or one hanging in front. Because we were trying to think of, because the discussion that we had last time, or in previous times, was trying to differentiate between the types of signs that we have, like the Dollar General sign or Dunkin' Donuts sign or something like that, versus what we'd want in the cultural arts district / this historic area. So I try to find signs that in terms of type, in terms of look, that would fit with that kind of aesthetic, as being what is preferred. Now, as Kevin pointed out last time, the other half of that is how artistic they can be or not. So I tried to craft language again that said, you could have artisan signs or things like that, as long as it kind of meshed with that kind of aesthetic. Is the intent of the language. You can see how well that works or not.
So a hanging sign can be a total up to 8 square feet.
That is based on the current code, yeah.
And a freestanding sign can be 50 square feet,
Can be, I think it's
7 by 7.5.
yeah. Freestanding sign, the height shall be no more than 7 feet total, with a supporting structure should be no more than 7 5/10 feet. So it's the total height can be 7 feet. Let me look one other thing in the code.
Well, you're right, that's like BB&T sign that
Yeah.
used to be out there.
Oh, right, yeah, like
Yeah.
okay. Okay. And then the other thing, and just explain to me, that a total, on a flat wall sign, 1 square foot for each linear foot of a building frontage shall be allowed.
Yeah. So imagine when you're thinking about a sign like for a business where it stretches over the awning, right, on the wall of a building, okay? So what they try to do to make it look in comparison to the frontage, they try to give a proportional sense of how much of that front area it could take up. So it's not the entire length or the entire width. You couldn't make a sign just the entire size of the building, but they try to make it proportional so it matches.
So, square foot being 1 by 1,
Yeah.
and if you're getting 1 square foot for every linear foot, then you could have a 1 foot sign, 1 foot tall sign run the length of the building.
Correct.
You could wrap it all the way around the top of it.
Nobody would see it. but
Border,
yes.
like a border.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's frontage, it's not around the entire building, just.
Yeah, it's the frontage. It's
The front part.
Right, but like Bassett's has 2 frontages.
correct. And in fact, in the code, it talks about that you can have a sign per frontage,
Per frontage, yeah.
but not necessarily a front that goes around it, but you could have, those 2 signs would count as 1 sign under the code.
Yeah, what you see across the street there in the shopping center, above each one of those, the beer store, Subway, whatever, those are in compliance with the code as it's written.
And it's building, not street, right?
Per building, yeah. Mhm.
Building frontage, not street
Yeah,
frontage. Okay.
yeah.
Did we already cover the part about, in content, one line of text in the business name is preferred? That seems very arbitrary and like why put it in?
So the intent is, and this is a good question.
I think I get the intent, but like, you know, if I read that and I was starting a business, I'd be like, well, we're gonna do whatever we want. Like, there's no rule there.
Right. But what you have is, what they're trying to avoid is like people putting a bunch of text on their sign. It's to have, so the example I use there is the new
Sweet pea?
Sweet Pea, yep. And just it has its name and the logo, and that is kind of it.
Right.
And so that's sort of what they're going for, whereas you don't want someone listing all their products.
I agree.
So you used to have that. But that's why it's, the limitation is to make them that.
It's preferential, right?
Yeah.
But I wonder if you wonder if you'd be better off saying one line unless you get an exception or something like that.
That language bothers me too, because it's under types of sign the town of Poolesville prefers. That is not a requirement. That is not.
So that, the content of it came from, that's also from the code. So that content text is text from the sign code.
Existing now, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like this sort of, again, ambiguous language. Prefer. Okay, well, you can prefer whatever you want, but.
Is some of that left over way back in the days when we actually had the sign board that reviewed approved signs?
And so part of what,
That goes back.
I'll just prefer it, I'm fine with it, right?
Yeah.
Period.
and so part of that type of language is what I'm doing now. I'm actually going through the actual sign code to remove, I've struck through all the relationship to the sign code, the sign review board and stuff like that.
Really going back
So we
to
could
those,
look through that as well.
Yeah, there's a reason we did away with that board.
Yeah.
Now that I went back and asked, and I was almost getting back to it before we jumped into context, but I don't think I want freestanding signs in the cultural arts district. I don't think we have, I think it's a business sign that you would see, and like you said, the BB&T sign, I just don't think that's a fit, especially that size and the way it could be, I don't know, maybe a temporary freestanding sign you could put out during business hours and pull away,
Yeah.
but not the big sign like I see out there.
My first reaction is I tend to agree. We touched on this a little bit last time we talked about signs, but just briefly.
I think they impede walkability, and given that that's part of what we're going through, or in that particular I'm not against them in general, but
No,
just
but-
in that area, yes, I have to agree.
Yeah, I concur. Again, the temporary ones for like a weekend or an event,
Yep.
which I think we have a.
Yeah, there's a separate
Carve that
temporary,
already,
right.
currently.
Yeah, there's currently a temporary sign thing, and we're going to look at that as part of the sign code as well, about temporary signs, but we could make it, temp signs, for special events. And then I can add that to the design guidelines, and then we can reference the specifics in the code. Because that's where we had the duration stuff that you sent me, Wade.
Yeah.
Like the current duration requirements, like, was it weekends only or something?
It is 3 consecutive days or weekends, so I forget how it's phrased, but there's 2 options they can use. It's really too strict for what it is.
Yeah, so we've been looking at other versions of that as well, and so we'll bring that back.
Well, we're waiting for Jay to weigh in on some political sign, because political signs cannot be designated or taken out of context on their own. They have to be a temporary sign and fit everything else. They can't be special now.
Oh, really?
Freedom of Information Act.
Huh. That gets interesting.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
So I have a couple of random things that are just like typo kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Not-
that's
not even typo, but in cultural district,
Yeah,
in the first bullet point, number 1,
yeah.
you have arts capitalized.
Oh, yeah, I can fix that.
And then in number 2, you have new capitalized.
Yeah, that's from, speaking it.
And then in types of signs, you have business awning and preferences capitalized that probably shouldn't be. And then in illumination, small is capitalized. And in materials, wood is capitalized. Just little stuff, but
Yeah. That's fine. That will fix all of that.
So we'll look at that content also and come up with some better language than preferred. I've got some ideas already I jotted down here.
Let me pull what is it?
For the content, you could always consider using a character limit. 3 out of the 4 signs that we have here have 20 characters or less. Kaleva, Sugar Pea, and Bassett's use less than 20 characters in their 20 characters or less in their sign. You could always approach it from that point. I'm not saying that, but it does say limit text to name of business and trade. Super.
Be a Stephanopoulos of an art studio. Couldn't think of a long first name.
I know. Super califragilistic. That's the first thing that came to my mind, yeah. But it's another approach to limit the text.
I think we just strike out is preferred and put a period.
Yeah, I don't think preferred should be in any.
So if somebody had an idea for a sign they liked that didn't meet the design criteria in this, that we've laid out in the Cultural Arts District, it's just too bad, or they get to come up and say, hey, we'd like to do this differently than what you have outlined and ask for an exception.
So currently the process would be that they would ask for an exception to the sign review board that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what I
Sounds like a word.
so what I was doing in trying to
Circular.
to edit the sign code is to make that then a Board of Zoning Appeals appeal, rather than, just to make it consistent. But if we think of a different idea, I haven't.
But that's too onerous, I believe, for a small business to spend $650 to go to the special exception to the BZA to get a sign permit.
Right. I just wasn't sure. I know I sprung that on you because I hadn't told you that yet, but I was just trying to figure out how to have there be an appeal. And so I just tried to copy what I could find. So if we want to do something else, if we want to make it the Planning Commission or
Parks and Streets needs it.
Parks and Streets,
No.
or however, I mean, we can work that
Sustainable
out.
Poolesville wants that one.
Yeah. But that was the only way I could think about it, other than it being,
But that would be
At
them
our
coming to
discretion.
you and saying, here, we want a permit to put up this sign. And you say, well, we can't give you the permit because it doesn't meet these guidelines, right?
But very rarely does it happen. I mean, Bassett's would be one that has a picture of the Basset Hound on it. I think McDonald's has the arches as part of their sign. I'm trying to think what else what logo would be incorporated into the, into a sign. Not often.
yeah. I'm going to look at one other thing.
But if they want to put a sign on their building, they have to get a permit for it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And then town staff reviews that permit application. Nobody else.
Yeah.
And then if for some reason it should not meet the criteria, you would instruct them that they would have to go to the sign board and get that, ask for a special exception.
At this point, we can make it whatever we want to. We could say they must go to a planning commission and request, an exception to the ruling of the staff.
And then if a sign board actually gets going at some point, then we could change that verbiage and say, don't go to the planning commission, you go to the sign board.
Or the commissioners.
Right.
Or the
Right.
commissioners, yeah.
Or commission, whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
Choose just where we want to deal with it, but.
I know.
yeah.
I mean, in the past, you explained to the people, there's never been an appeal that I can think of for a sign issue.
Right. I mean, it's,
You explain to them that it doesn't meet the criteria,
and they make a different sign.
they say, oh, I'm sorry, well, here, we'll redesign it.
Right.
I say that because I think that in the arts district, you might get more creative types of signs, and
Right.
especially going back to the mural, somebody might want to say, well, I want to,
Yeah, the mural topic is going to be its own special, there's definitely going to need to be some kind of review and approval mechanism on that one. Because that, you can do so many things with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. But the standard sign, I don't know, it's tough to say.
I just think we should have, if it's out, if we know, we know. We know what they need to do. If it's not going to work, right, it may never happen, but I think if we
Let's look at that and come up with something
spend
for
this
you.
time that we've been spending, trying to put together how this cultural arts district could exist, I think we should have good processes in place,
Yeah.
even if they're never used.
Yeah.
So we'll make Chuck the sign guy, and he gets to
Oh, hell no. That sign topic goes back decades.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's a reason it doesn't exist as a board anymore.
So do we make some decisions that we need to recap real quick or no?
I mean, based on, we looked at the definition, so we've made notes on there. So the decision was to remove freestanding signs from the design guidelines. Was there anything else about, from the discussion last time, just to be clear, like on the materials, I had it, I instead of limiting the actual materials, I tried to make it more the look of the materials, so that kind of thing. That was based on the discussion last time. And then the illumination was also based on our discussion last time of trying to limit it to sort of small shade lights or things that don't disrupt others. So one thing that Wade and I talked about was if we have second-story apartments and things like that, we'd want to limit the amount of light interfering with that kind of thing. So that was the way we phrased that. I just wanted to make sure that there's no objections to those.
Probably materials, we should get rid of that preferred, Lexi.
Content. Or was it?
Is content
Oh, there
there
is.
is preferred, but there is a
Both.
preferred
Both,
Yeah.
it's both.
in there, yeah.
Agreed, yep, just period.
Yeah.
Yep.
Get rid of
Yep.
preferred in both.
Sounds good.
You guys ever put anything into the language about, this is sort of off topic, but you know how Dollar General has the facade, but the sides there's no facade on the sides?
Like in terms of the building material itself?
Yeah, like
how-
that it should wrap around instead of looking like a warehouse on the side?
That's up to you guys with architectural design criteria when the planning commission sees the elevations.
So-
You have that ability now.
A quick
Yeah.
story on that. I remember once, a couple years after Dollar General was done, I remember Cal and I chatting somewhere, and we both were like, yeah, we spent a lot of time focusing on the front of the building. We never really thought about the side of the building.
Yeah.
In retrospect, we wished we had.
Yeah, sure.
That was one of those.
But that's why it
never
might be
thought
good
of
if it's
it
in
before.
writing somewhere,
Yeah,
like,
no, so it's a
just-
very good point, but
Yeah.
we both regretted that, how, the way that looks on the side there.
Yeah.
It just kind of,
Yeah.
we're so focused on the frontage and the signs and the lights and everything else, we never thought about the side view and how prominent it is when you drive up
Yeah.
the road. So it's an excellent point.
But I think that is referenced in the architectural design guidelines already.
Yep.
So, yeah.
I guess maybe that's just a reminder note for us next time, because we just didn't think of it.
And the Dunkin' sign, like the bright.
Well, the Duncan sign, that one was, there was some public comment on that, although I honestly.
Not terrible,
I think it was
but it's-
after it was put up, I think, if I
Well,
remember.
There was a long discussion about that.
Yeah, I remember distinctly because the biggest thing was, it doesn't interfere with any residences.
Right.
But a lot of people objected to, like, actually right now with all the leaves off the trees, I'm staring right at it, with the nice pretty lights on the common and everything, and then you start right at
Yeah.
the orange and blue stuff there.
Is what it is.
That was also part of my thinking when I was really,
Yeah.
wanted to limit the illumination
Yep.
stuff
I hear you.
down there, 'cause it definitely, I don't see that having the right look and feel and fit.
Well done.
I mean, the one thing just an aside, I don't want to really dig into this, but I could see somebody, we say no neon in here. I think when we say no neon, a lot of what we're thinking about is like what's across the street here. But if you think about some of the vintage
1930s,
40s,
40s.
the
Yeah.
artistic neon stuff,
Yeah.
that can almost be an art form. So I can almost see that coming as a request.
And the Art
some-
Deco.
But thank you, Art Deco.
Yeah.
Like an exception, you mean?
I can see somebody wanting to do
Yeah.
something like.
I mean, I agree. I've seen classic, tasteful neon signs
Yeah,
as well.
there's a lot of it in the old Vegas. There's a great sign museum in Vegas, as a matter of fact.
And that was part,
Bring it here.
and that was part of why I talked about there being, I think I include somewhere where we talk about artisan signs a little
Yeah.
bit. And that was, the intent was to sort of give flexibility for somebody to come in with something creative.
That's a good point. I could see
And-
that fitting, especially if it dealt with what their business did.
Right, and so I think what I
Way
said
there.
is, in preferences, so I said, town prefers, and then here I did do prefer for hanging signs or window signs or flat wall signs. Other types of sign may be acceptable if they are consistent with the district's historic nature. Artisan signs that reflect the artistic preferences, and that's another one to fix. Thank you for that. Of the business owner will be considered as long as they're in keeping with the design guidelines. And so that was my attempt at trying to create some flexibility for people to say, I have a really creative sign, and here's where it is. If we want to put more guardrails or less on that, that was just, I was thinking about that exact issue and trying to address it.
It just comes back to who's the decider and the arbiter of that.
Right, and
And if it's now the planning commission, I think that's where it should be. I mean,
Just saying that because you're no longer the planning commission.
well, maybe again next month, we don't know. Me too.
yeah. But I think, but that in terms of language was just where we.
That's a good point. But it's a good place for it as long as there's some mechanism we have to actually address it. Ugh. We're gonna end up having to do this ourselves.
I don't think we'll see it.
I hope not.
I think if you serve 5 years on the board, you'll see it maybe once. Like, I just don't think it's going to be
I've been.
a real thing.
And I haven't seen it.
Yeah. We have had some signage contention before, but that's probably going back at least 15 plus years, if I remember, for the last time I think that's really come up. So yeah, you're probably right.
Murals, on the other hand.
So does that mean we kind of want to codify that this body would be the one who would, okay.
I'll make
I
those.
still like leaving it vague
No, it makes sense.
and
As
open-ended.
much as I want to send everything to Parks
I know,
and Streets.
me too. Or the commissioners.
I think it makes sense that it comes to.
Well, if we send it to the commissioners, they will make sure there's a sign group and they can get it assigned to the sign group.
But no, I can change that. That's not difficult at all, what I've already done.
I'm okay with the concept.
So Lexi, did you bring a copy of your book for everybody?
I love that book. You all got to read it before the next meeting.
Seriously, this is on my weekend reading.
It is,
Really skimming.
it's a great listen. It's a good
I got through
read.
one of Chuck's links and I'm already sold. Like, do away with all the asphalt in town.
Don't go to that last link, the one I put last, that's the Montgomery County big document. That gets boring real quick.
Okay.
First, like, one or two
All I need
pages
is
of
an
that.
excuse to not read that one.
Yeah, that one's, it is Montgomery County. I was kind of surprised by that one when I ran across that last year, especially at the beginning where they specifically call out that they lean towards the concept. But it's that one's a very dry read. The other ones are almost like newspaper-esque or magazine-esque art.
Do you have a copy of that book?
No, I borrowed it digitally from the library.
It's on Amazon.
I think it's only a 16-week wait right now.
Oh, really?
You're my God.
Would I get here for the next meeting?
I I have a lot of thoughts, and I can't wait for the next
me-
meeting. Yeah, it's going to be a good one.
Well, I hope I'm here.
Hey, Martin,
You might be here, Mr. Buck.
it's your last meeting. Why don't you do something special?
Are we done? I make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Hey, Martin.